All right, welcome to this workshop on magic pause, which is the my articulation of the very core of the Alexander technique. It's something I teach in the first lesson to all my students who come to see me because it's so useful, it's so tangible and quick and easy, and gives big results in terms of learning how to release excess tension right off the bat. So what we're going to do today is I'll give the basic lesson, and then we'll apply it in various other situations, and maybe you can play your piano, Laura, a little bit, so we can get a sense of how to apply this in practical situations. So the magic pause is really great for those times when we're getting tighter than you'd like, right? So I see a knowing nod there.
Yes, like constantly,
Yeah,
24/7.
it happens, right? And for a lot of people, maybe that's not such a big deal. But if you're a musician, if you're an athlete, or if you have some sort of injury, like back pain or tendonitis or something like that, then learning how to relieve tension, even subtle kinds of tension in your body, can make a really big difference in your well-being, a really big difference in your performance, um, and can lead to some very surprising and wonderful results, especially for artists in terms of creative expression. So I'll get to that in a bit. Um, right, and so hopefully by the end of today, you'll have uh, a sense of what the magic pause is and how to apply it, when to apply it, exactly what to do, what to think about, what to notice, and yeah, I think that's going to be just tremendously empowering.
Mhm.
And this is the first thing I teach all my students, and even with this, many of my students who've had injuries, uh, chronic tension, they say that just applying this diligently in their daily life, when they're doing their creative thing or not, makes all the difference. And it's something I use every day. I've been doing
Mhm.
Alexander technique for 20 years. um, but this is not something I learned at the beginning of my Alexander technique journey. I actually found the beginning of my Alexander technique journey to be quite confusing and frustrating at times because I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was happening when my teacher would put her hands on me, like why I was getting freer and how to recreate that myself.
Oh,
This is a very common experience in Alexander technique. You get the hands-on work, and then you feel free. It's great, but then what do you do when you get back home?
so sad.
So sad. Now, there is value in that experience. It's just because it's like opening doors in your house you didn't even know were there. Like, whoa, I have this in my house. This kind of freedom. It's possible for me, and that's very eye opening. It can be really useful to know, hey, this is what's possible. But it's also difficult to recreate. And so the magic pause is my attempt to help people recreate that freedom for themselves. Um, so, but before I get into the how-to, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, Laura, and what brings you here today.
I've taken a few little classes with you over the years. Always been interested in Alexander technique. I've had periods of a lot of chronic pain, overuse injuries.
The overuse
Um,
industry.
yes, 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 yes.
That's music.
Yes, exactly,
Music
exactly.
education,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
like, uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to use that one. That's a good
That's
Freudian slip
funny.
right there.
You're welcome to have it. So I play piano and guitar and banjo, a bunch of different instruments, and I'm also painting, which is a lot
Hmm,
of same kind of muscles. And
yeah,
so
yeah. And you said you had injuries. What's been happening for you these days?
these days I'm good. I don't use the computer as much, which is a lot, very helpful. I
Yeah.
mean, the mouse in particular really got me. I used to be a graphic designer, so
Ah,
I'm playing music and being on the computer constantly
yes.
and all that. So that has
Yeah.
helped a lot. I think that was the worst offender, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Another friend of
Mm.
mine has a similar story. He's a amazing jazz guitarist, and his way of winding down for many years was playing video games. And so he'd be doing many, many hours a day of tight little motions with his hands, and of course,
Yeah,
terrible
yeah,
injuries because of that.
yeah, yeah, and, yeah. The first time it happened, I was doing graphic design, working long hours, and
Yeah.
I eventually had to leave that job. So
Yeah.
and rested up for a couple of years. So I never let it get that bad. But
Yeah.
and just I noticed just day to day life, I just like race from one thing to another,
Yeah.
and I would like to get better at pausing. I
Yes.
know how good it is, but I haven't really ingrained it yet.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to get it more automatic, I guess,
Yeah. Well, and
or
that's
just occur to me. Yeah.
yes, exactly, right. And so this actually touches on one of the larger issues that we face when trying to address chronic tension. Like first, this is not your fault that you're chronically tense in whatever way it is that's happening for you. Um, it's something that you learned from your
Mm,
society. Our society is like the rat race, maximum effort, no pain, no gain.
right.
And if you're not working as hard as possible, then there's something wrong with you. You're
Mm,
lazy.
yes.
You know?
Don't want to be
Don't
lazy.
don't focus on your well-being. Don't rest.
No. You're a
Work
robot,
harder.
basically.
What's that?
I like to tell myself I'm not a robot.
That's right. Well, that's yeah, that's exactly it. Right? We have this. Every age has their metaphor for what humanity is, for what life is. And a long time ago, it was like water moving or
Mm,
different elements moving, and then it became like mechanisms, like cogs and wheels. This is like Descartes' era, and nowadays it's computers. You think of the brain like a computer. It's not a computer. Yeah,
no.
it's not that at all.
No.
And who knows what the next generation,
Yeah.
whatever their prime technology is going to be the metaphor for what we are. But what
Yeah,
we
it's a
are
shame.
is certainly not a robot. And this is how I got injured. So I'll say a little bit about myself. I'm a violinist, and I'm a professional violinist. I went to school for music, and wouldn't you know it, I treated myself like a robot in that time, and nobody was saying anything different.
Mm-mm.
So a year and a half into my training, I had so much pain in my arms, both arms. It spread all throughout my body. I could barely play
Yeah.
violin anymore. And my teacher said, my violin teacher at the time said, "You should learn how to relax."
Oh, that's great advice.
Great, thanks.
Something else I should do.
Right, just add to the stress.
Yeah.
No skill development there. No suggestions on how to do that. And so I saw all the doctors and therapists and chiropractors, physical therapy, everything, and nothing helped.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nothing helped. And then I found Alexander technique, which kind of opened my eyes to, whoa, I have a body, and whoa, my body's not a machine. And if
Hmm.
I treat my body like a living organism, like a being to be honored, then hey, things go a lot better. I feel better, I play better, and the result of that has been that at the end of it's been a long time now since I've been in any pain. So I haven't had that in many years. But my technique on the violin has become so much more fluid, so much more effortless, and as a result, my sort of creative energy flows through what I call soul force. This is what I wrote my book about,
Hmm.
called Soulforce: How to Discover Your Artistic Purpose, Create More Freely, Make Art That Matters. And so today we're talking about the create more freely part,
Mm.
but also when you're letting your soul force, your sort of inherent creative energy flow through you, as because you're more effortless while you're doing your things, then um, that's what helps create art that matters.
Hmm.
It really brings us alive, as opposed to what I was doing and what many artists unfortunately end up doing. Many musicians, especially the highly trained classical musicians, is we become robotic virtuosos.
Oh, yeah, that's a
You know,
shame.
there's nothing wrong with that per se. It's not like you're bad if that's what you end up doing, but that's not real
No.
music.
Yeah.
And that's not the real thing. So anyway, so the magic pause, what we're going to do today is sort of a gateway to the real thing. And even if you don't have injuries, um, even if you're not an artist per se, this is so useful. This is like a basic life skill that should be taught in every
Hmm. Hmm.
school.
Yeah.
So here we go. Enough talk. Um, so the magic pause works at the level of behavior. So a lot of people think that tension in the body is kind of this structural physical issue. And while it can have that component sometimes, for most of us, it doesn't. Like the sort of chronic tension, that spot in your shoulder, or the TMJ, or the repetitive strain injuries in your arms, or your back pain, or whatever it is, like all that stuff, or just that feeling of being kind of awkward while you're trying to
Hmm.
do something
Oh,
difficult.
yeah.
Like all of that, that's not a physical structural problem. That's a behavior issue. That's the signals that your brain is sending to your muscles. And so no amount of stretching or exercising, strengthening, um, or otherwise treating your muscles is going to make all that much of a difference,
Oh.
unless you are changing your behaviors in the moment, changing the way you stand, changing the way you walk, changing the way you play and create. Um, and this is what I found in my journey. I said I saw all these different therapists and people who were sort of poking and prodding and doing things to my muscles, and all that felt good temporarily, but my pain always
Yeah.
came back. It always came back. It didn't change how I played the violin. It didn't change how I did my dishes. It didn't change how I wrote or spoke. And so I was always in the same place over and over. It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
So Magic Pause changes that thing, changes the root cause, which is your behaviors. All right, so muscular tension then is a behavior like anything else. There's a stimulus and a response. All right, the stimulus is whatever you're trying to do or whatever you're reacting to. Like,
Hmm.
oh,
Big
the phone
one.
rings, and so you move, and that's
Hmm.
your movement to go pick up your phone is the response. Um, or hey, I want to play this piece of music. That feeling of desire coming up, that's a stimulus, and then your response afterwards, playing the piece, yeah, that's the response. So stimulus and response. And when you're getting more tight than you'd like, we have stimulus and like an old response. Right?
Hmm.
It happens very quickly.
Hmm.
Sometimes you get tense and before you even start the thing. and and so here we go, stimulus with the old one. And what we want is to have the same stimulus because you're still going to play the piano, you're still going to speak, you're still going to walk, you're still going to get in your car and drive,
Hmm.
deal with your challenges, whatever they are, with the same stimulus, but new response. A new response that has freedom and ease in it. And so here's how it looks in the moment. Um, so stimulus, pause. Oh, almost went down the old pathway. Let me choose something new. And so that pause is your leverage point. It's what opens up a little space of awareness to be able to make different choices. And that's what this comes down to. Muscular tension is a choice. You're doing it to yourself. Maybe
Hmm.
you've forgotten that you're doing it to yourself. You're so used to it, you don't even realize you're doing it to yourself anymore, but you're doing it to yourself. And you can reclaim those choices with the pause. Stimulus, pause, space for new choice. And the amazing thing is that that new choice will sort of automatically be more free in your body. Tension feels bad. Your
Hmm.
body has an inherent choice making capacity around this. if given the choice, your body will move more freely. It just will. Um, and so what you do then is after the stimulus, you have a pause, maybe for a couple seconds. It doesn't always need to be that long, but in the beginning, that's a good place to start. And then that's what allows your body to help you make a new choice. Like, oh, I'm going to move more freely right now. So before we get into the little experiment that we're about to do, uh, any questions? Anything coming up for you?
Yeah, I think there's also another response is just getting like a lot of adrenaline or some
Mm.
sort of
Oh yeah,
lizard brain sort of thing, fight or
yeah,
flight kind of thing.
that'll happen too.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah.
well, I guess if you can pause, you can tamp that down.
Well, with the adrenaline, once it's released, there's nothing you can do. You just gotta
Okay,
wait for whatever, a
just
couple minutes.
okay, got you. I realized the other day that if I got on my stepper and stepped for a bunch, then it would go away a little quicker.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I
this is
don't
what I
know. That
this is
might
what
have
I
been.
hear from like physiologists, people who study that kind of stuff. You just gotta wait. It's about it being reabsorbed from your blood.
Oh, okay, okay,
But but that does kind of lead to one of the lessons about the pause is that when you have a situation where your adrenaline is really going, that's a really big stimulus. And generally, when you have a really big stimulus, or you're doing something really hard, or there's a lot of pressure, or it's really fast, or awkward, or complicated, then you need a longer pause,
okay.
right? Because that part of your nervous system that goes, fix it, fix it, fix it,
Hmm.
needs some time to go, whoo. And
Okay.
so unless you take that time for your nervous system to calm down, then you're just going to take that tension into your activity.
Hmm.
Now, with an easier thing like what we're about to do, you only need a very short pause because it doesn't take that long for your nervous system to slow down, calm down. So that's one lens on what the pause is doing. So we're going to do a very simple arm movement here. Um, there are three stages, so you can copy me. So here's one, just having your arms up in front of you, hands in front, and then two, hands above, and then three down in your lap or by your sides. All right, so there's nothing complicated here. So one, two, three. Okay, so now that the movement is clear, we're going to set a baseline. We're not going to try to relax or anything, change anything like that. We're setting a baseline. What do you notice about your body in the way that you normally move? Okay, so and basically, this is a whole body thing, not just your arms. So I want you to pay attention to your legs, your back, your sides, your head, so do everything gently all at once. And ask yourself, overall, am I getting tighter or freer at any of these stages with the arm movement? So here we go. One, noticing your body. Two, are you getting tighter or freer? You just sort of notice. And then three, noticing your body. Okay, so were you able to notice your body while we did that arm movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you notice?
Um, the first one I felt pretty neutral, and my legs started getting tighter and tighter.
Mm.
The last one, when I released my arms, my upper body felt good, but my legs were still,
Okay.
even though I wasn't even moving my legs.
Yeah, funny, right? It's almost as if your whole body is connected somehow.
Oh yes, yes, it does. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's another lesson from the Alexander technique. Um, okay, so this is your habit. Good noticing.
Hmm.
So now we're going to see what happens when we insert a pause between the stimulus and the response. The stimulus is me saying one, two, or three, and then the response is you actually moving your arms. So it's going to look something like this. One, pause, and we're going to pause for a couple seconds. And you don't do anything in that pause, and then you move. Two, pause, like that. Okay.
Hmm.
Here we go. One, pause. Oh, you moved your hands. So we're going to do a long pause
Oops,
before you move your hands.
got you.
So one, pause. Oh, you moved your hands again. Can,
What do
can
you
you
mean?
can you follow
What am
my?
I supposed to do?
So what I'm asking for is I'm going to say one, pause, and then you don't do anything.
Oh, gotcha. Understood. Thank you.
That's what the pause is for. All right. So one pause, and then you go. Two pause. Three pause. What do you notice this time?
I was breathing slower and more deeply.
Hmm. That's a good sign.
My neck is a little tense.
Hmm.
But my shoulders and my arms felt fine.
Okay.
My
Overall,
left leg is still getting tense.
hmm. I'll stop
Yeah,
that. So overall, would you say you were tighter or freer than the first time?
definitely freer.
Great. All right. So even if we're moving a little bit in the
Yeah, there
direction of
was
freedom,
definitely a little movement. Yes.
great. That's how you get there. A journey of 10,000 miles starts with one step. That kind of
Yes,
thing.
of
So here we
course.
go. Let's just do the same exact thing. One pause. Two pause. Three pause. What do you notice this time?
Yeah, it felt a lot better.
Hmm.
I changed the position I'm standing in. I think
Hmm.
that was causing some trouble.
Hmm.
But yeah, my upper body feels great. My neck is not getting any worse. Um, I just felt calm and I was breathing easily.
Great. All right. So there you go. Magic pause.
Yeah, it is
Um,
magic.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and what you said about your legs, that makes a lot of sense to me. One thing you might notice is that as you practice the magic pause, you get more attuned to ease.
Hmm.
And then you find yourself sort of automatically rethinking your habitual movements.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, oh, do I really need to stand in this way? Oh, really? Do I really need to
Right,
do the technique in this way?
right.
How does it
Do I
feel?
need to do I need to activate this muscle to stay standing? Stuff like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Good. All right, we're going to do a couple variations.
Okay.
One is about anticipatory tension. That's a phrase. All right, so oftentimes, like I was saying earlier, before you even get started doing something, you're already getting tighter. This is what I call anticipatory tension, right? And what can happen is that unless you give yourself enough time to let go of that anticipatory tension, then you just carry that tension with you into your activity. So, one thing that the pause does is provide that time. Again, like I was saying earlier, it lets your nervous system calm down a little bit. Um, so, what I'm going to use a phrase: one pause, waiting for any anticipatory tension to subside. And then when it actually does, that's when you go. So you're going to follow your own timing when your body actually releases that anticipatory tension. Okay? Here we go. One pause, waiting for any anticipatory tension to subside. And when it does, that's when you go. Two pause, waiting for any anticipatory tension to subside. And only when it does, that's when you go. Great. Three pause, waiting for any anticipatory tension to subside. What do you
I
notice?
like that one.
Good. What happened?
I like the last part because I'm just like releasing.
Yeah.
So that one's the easiest one.
Hmm.
But yeah. Um, it was nice giving myself permission to just wait a second
Yeah,
or however long.
exactly. Yeah, undoing that rushing around like we began talking about today. That's one of the biggest ones. That's one of the biggest reasons we get tight. It's like we think
Yeah.
that we have to rush around.
And it
It's
doesn't
like
even make sense logically.
this
It's like,
does make
oh,
sense.
I took an extra 30 seconds, big deal, and then I didn't mess it up and have to fix it.
Enough is it? It's not even going to be 30 seconds. Like
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you're reaching for your coffee cup.
right.
Do you really need to tighten up that much? Do you really need to rush? Yeah, I still find myself doing this all the time, and even though I've been doing Alexander technique for so many years, and I'm not hard on myself about it. This is just our cultural inheritance.
Hmm.
Anyway, okay. So third variation is very similar. It's you know what you're about to do, and you just don't do it quite yet. So think of a cat about to pounce. The cat is not tight. It's ready, aware, but very relaxed in that readiness. And so like the readiness part of the nervous system is there, but the relaxation part is kind of balancing it out. And what's important about this phrase, you know what you're about to do and you just don't do it quite yet, is that you have that clear intention in mind. You have your intention in mind because this is not about the Alexander technique, the magic pause is not a relaxation technique. There's nothing wrong with relaxation techniques. I use them all the time in my meditations
Hmm.
or just whenever I would like to feel more relaxed. But that's not something you can do while you're playing the violin, while you're cooking. What makes the difference here with the magic pause is how you relate to the stimulus. You know what you're about to do, and you just don't do it quite yet. So here we go. Same three-part arm movement. One, pause, you know what you're about to do, and you just don't do it quite yet. Two, you know what you're about to do, and you just don't do it quite yet. Three, you know what you're about to do, and you just don't do it quite yet. What do you notice?
My mind was a lot quieter.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, my legs are still a little tense, but other than that, I feel easily moving around,
That's great.
relaxed.
Yeah. And so how does that compare to normal for you?
It's very different. I mean, I usually don't think about what I'm going to do, and I end up knocking things over, or I just start flailing around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and that's bad in music too, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're regaining some choice, regaining some
Yes.
agency, personal
Hmm.
sovereignty.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits to that. And you can apply this to difficult conversations when
Yeah,
someone
that's a good
says something
one.
to you.
Hmm.
Somebody says something.
I'm trying to think more before I speak too, because my mom gets confused if I sort of talk out loud fast.
Yeah,
So even just that, yeah, speaking.
right. So let's talk about how to apply this to other situations like that. So basically, you need to become aware of your critical moments. The critical moment is the moment you get more tight than you'd like to.
Mm.
And it's up to you to begin to discover where and when those critical moments happen. And once you do, then you insert a pause just after or just before, excuse me, the critical moment. So I'll give an example. So let's say you notice that when you're making your coffee in the morning or your tea or whatever, that when you're pouring from the kettle, your shoulder goes,
Mhm.
right? So the critical moment there might be just after you place your hand on the kettle. And so what you can do is take a look at the kettle, put your hand on it, pause, and then you go,
Mhm.
right? And if you practice that every day, then you're, of course, it's not going to affect just your coffee making time. But you'll begin to notice that those moments of tension and then ease happening more and more. You'll notice your critical moments. And so sometimes this can happen in the moment, on the fly. So once you get better at this, so we'll give the example of having a conversation, a difficult conversation. So somebody says something, and something that you don't really like, and your body goes, right? You might not have, well, let's say if you're like really sharp and aware of yourself, you might be able to pause as they're saying what they're saying.
Oh, that's a good one.
You might be able to. But often these emotional responses are so fast and so strong that really the stimulus is not so much what the other person is saying, but your own reaction to what they're saying.
Sure, yeah.
So you notice your body tightening, you notice that anger or that fear coming up in your body. That's when you pause. Because of course, we say stupid things when we get really triggered. And what is being triggered mean you have this big emotional response, and you're acting from that emotional response. There's nothing wrong with having that emotional response. The magic pause doesn't get rid of the emotional response, and it's not a good idea because you still want to have connection with your emotions. That's how you become a self-actualized whole person. But you want to be able to choose how you respond to your own reactions better. So you notice your emotion, pause.
Yeah, like emotion doesn't turn right into behavior.
Exactly. And so in that pause, you can at least get a little bit of mental space to make a more appropriate choice. Maybe you'll still do the exact same thing. Who knows? But at least you're giving yourself the opportunity to make a more informed choice. Another big question that comes up for a lot of people is, well, what do I do when I don't have time to pause? Like I'm in the middle of playing a piece on stage. There are many things to do in that scenario. First, do longer pauses in your practicing.
Mm.
So let's say you have a particularly tricky passage, and there's especially like one jump in that passage that always gets you. And even just thinking about that passage, you notice your shoulders go, "Urgh, oh no, look at all those black dots on the page." And so what you could do is you practice the few notes right before that passage, pause, and then do the jump and the other couple notes. And so you do that many, many times in the practice room. Do, pause. An actual pause, a real pause to let your nervous system calm down. And then you go. So this is a kind of practicing that's not just getting the notes right. It's practicing for effortless mastery.
Mm.
Because can you say that you've really mastered something unless it's effortless? So to me,
I have
mastery
a
is
question about
effortless.
effortless.
Yes.
Does that mean it's something that's easy for you or just something that you relax while you're doing?
Mm,
Like, let's say you're trying to do a difficult piece,
yes.
can you get effortless in that or
Yes.
eventually?
Yeah, eventually. And what practicing is really for is to make it effortless.
Got you.
Yeah. This is something I talk about with my violin students all the time. Even though they're little kids, that their number one priority is getting the notes right. And I can tell, their faces scrunch and their body get tight. Their sound goes, right? And there's no musicality. But as soon as I change their thinking, their orientation, oh, practicing isn't just about getting the notes right. That's important, but really, it's about being able to play this effortlessly. So you repeat it enough times so that it becomes effortless. That's how many times you do it each day in your practice session.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't have to do it just 5 times in a row. No, that stuff's so boring. It's so boring.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can practice it effortlessly, if you can play it effortlessly the first time, then you don't need to repeat it, 5
Go on
times.
to the other part.
Exactly. So this is a much better sort of metric for success in practice. So, and and what will happen with the really tricky passages is that eventually they feel as easy as the easy passages. And part of that's just, familiarity. But
Mm-hmm.
a big part of that is how you choose to use your body while you're practicing. What are you ingraining?
Mm.
Ingraining tension and effort or effortlessness? How you practice becomes how you perform.
Yeah, because you're practicing that too.
Yes, precisely. So, one more thing about applying this then. So, when you're up on stage, hopefully having practiced with effortlessness many times, it's just going to feel easier. And you'll notice in your practice sessions, your pauses don't need to be as long. Once you've done this 50, 100 times with a really difficult passage, say, then it's just going to feel easier. You don't need to do that really long pause. And when you're up on stage, even if you do a little tiny pause, what I call a micro pause so short only you know it's there, then that's enough. Yeah. So there are many different ways to apply that. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right. So do you want to apply this to your piano?
Sure, I will go downstairs.
Okay. I'm going to pause the recording and then we'll get back started. All right. So I forgot to start the recording there just a minute ago, but we got our sound issues figured out anyway, so that's good. So before you played through a little bit of this Goldberg variation, and you were saying that when you got to like the second measure or whatever it was, that's when you got tight in your shoulders, and then I suggested that's where you put the pauses, and so you just played through that, and you actually did a couple other pauses too. So what was that like for you?
It was really good to do the pause, and I tried not to think about it too much when I was pausing instead of like, I have to do this next, I have to do
Yeah.
this next.
Yes.
It was just a pause.
It was just the pause. Beautiful. And so, what that suggests then, or is it possible then that you can trust your body to know how to play the next measures instead of trying to control it conceptually?
Um, Not quite yet because I haven't practiced enough, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, still,
Yeah.
I didn't see you like fall off your piano bench or
No, no. Oh, right, sure.
play wrong notes,
I know how to play that note. That's easy, blah, blah,
right?
blah.
Yeah, it's not like this is not performance ready yet, which is fine, right? So I'm not saying that this magically makes it performance ready, but just having the pause in there and not having to do anything else, uh, your body organizes your movements sort of naturally. And there can be this conceit from the ego says, I need to control all these movements.
That's
And
funny.
right. And so we get into this egoic way of playing, which is not all that great to listen to. But, and we all know the cliche is that you become a channel for the music or whatever. This is how you do it. Just having these pauses in there, which allows you to um, let go of the conceptual mind and be more embodied. So why don't you do exactly the same thing, just pausing whenever you need it. was amazing. What do you notice?
With the parts where it wasn't so hard, I felt like I could be really expressive and it was really fun. Um, I'm still doing a little too much um, pause, then get ready for the next thing. Not pausing, but stopping and getting ready, because that I was kind of taught that way, and
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's a very hard habit to break.
Yeah,
Instead, just stop.
yes, yes. Well, and it's kind of nuanced here because remember one of the variations we did with the hands is you know what you're about to do and you just don't do it quite yet. Right? So there is an element of intention that needs to be set. However, it is not a forceful, controlling intention. It's not a figuring out kind of intention. It's more like waiting for mud to settle in a pool.
Yeah, I like that.
And it could be that that conceptual part of you that comes up, the figuring out part, also just needs some time to calm down. So you could even do a pause with that. So do pause, and you notice your mind going, oh, what's the next part? And then you pause in relation to that. You just wait. You look at the page. You've been playing the piano long enough. Your body knows what to do with those notes. You just look at the page. You just wait. So that was really great. So what I noticed was that each time you did the pause, I got more relaxed
Mhm.
just watching you. And the very first time you played it, which was not in the recording, I noticed I noticed that I got a little bit tighter when you were playing certain parts of it. And it's amazing, right? We're doing this over Zoom, but we're still so attuned to each other as
Yeah,
humans.
and it's like this big on my phone. Yeah.
Right? We're still so attuned, through the sound, through subtle visual cues, we pick up on the level of ease that others have. And so this is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your audiences as well. When you're up on stage, you being at ease with yourself helps them be more at ease. And this is why a lot of people go out and listen to music in the first place. They want to
Yeah.
have this sort of transportive experience, and you can't give that to them unless you yourself are transportive, transported. Um,
You know, I
so
felt that way sometimes when I was performing. Mm,
yeah, yeah,
it was great.
yeah. And when you have that more figuring out part of your mind going, what happens to the transportive element?
Oh, it's overwhelmed.
Yes, exactly.
In
Um,
fact, it's not just even over, it's just like pushed aside. It's like destroyed almost.
exactly, exactly. So there's a really great book called The Master and His Emissary. It's by Ian McGilchrist, who's a neuroscientist, and he's talking about left and right brain. The left brain is figuring out brain, really good at concepts and step by step approach. Has no idea what the big picture is. Planning, great at planning, no idea why we should plan or what we should keep in context. Okay, that's the right brain. The right brain has the big picture, it's more sensorial, more being rather than doing. And he says that the right brain is the master, the because that has the context for why we do things, what's important to
Hmm.
keep in mind, what's actually valuable. It's more connected to life. Whereas the left brain is the emissary. This is like how you get things done. We need both.
Mhm.
But again, what is practicing about is being able to give more and more control away from the left brain to the right brain. The left brain needs to learn how to relax and get out of the way. It's still going to be there. It has a valuable contribution. We need to be able to interpret the notes on the page, especially in the beginning of learning a piece. But that process, I mean, if you want to give a masterful performance, whatever that might mean to you, you got to let go of the left brain. Or else it's just going to squash the musicality, just like you were talking about. All right, let's do this one more time. Same thing. I love that you were taking the pauses when you needed it. So I want you to do that again. Beautiful. What do you notice?
I was just not tense. My hands were very relaxed.
Yes.
It felt very nice.
Yes.
And I was just like, well, just stop.
Yeah.
I'm not like being recorded, but well, I am, but
Yeah.
not for like a record or anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose by just stopping.
Okay. Can you bring the phone a little closer?
There's,
Yeah. There was nothing.
there, there's nothing to lose by just stopping or,
Yeah.
going back a few notes.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So, what do you think might happen if you were to practice this way sometimes?
I think it'd be fabulous. And I would learn it faster too.
Most likely.
And I would want to practice
Oh, yeah. Why would you want to practice more?
because it wouldn't be painful, because I wouldn't get stressed out about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great.
even like the parts where it sounded awful, I was just like, it was fine.
Yeah. So this is actually touches on one of the chapters in my book called The Yoga of Art, which is
Mm,
about how to bring together the part of you that wants to do something and the part of you that doesn't.
ah,
And this is a really common thing in mastering an art form. Sometimes it feels like you have to force yourself to do things you don't want to. And there is a place for that. But if that becomes your modus operandi, then you're just going to stop doing it. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to have injuries. Um, and one of the reasons that a lot of people lack motivation, or they believe they lack motivation to practice, is because practicing just feels bad. It's all this tension and effort, and you're forcing yourself to do something you don't really want to do. Like, it's basically a form of self-torture. Let me do this drudgery kind of thing to get some imagined future goal. But what that ignores is that one, your well-being is utterly important to your musicality, to your artistry, and two, how you practice becomes how you perform. So when you get to that imagined future time, then you don't have any of the joy in the performance. Um, and you can make it so much easier on yourself if practicing feels pleasurable.
yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I think this would be a good way for me to practice the pause too,
Yes, absolutely.
because I'm a little more aware of what I'm doing when I'm playing an instrument than I'm just walking around the house
Yeah.
when the phone rings or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I might suggest doing both. Like pick an
Yeah,
activity, a daily activity that's easy, like making your coffee or whatever it is. And you make a point of figuring out the critical moments and doing the pauses in that. And then you do it when you're practicing as well, just like you were doing today. Yeah,
yeah, that's very helpful.
good. I'm
I'm
glad.
very excited to try this.
Good. That's what I love hearing. All right. Um, so, any final questions, comments?
Mm. No, just thank you very, very much. I mean, the way you present it is so clear and patient, which also takes the stress down a lot.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. And
yeah,
there's a lot I can use.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad. Um, and I'm saying this not just for you, but for anybody who might be listening to this afterwards. Uh, I have, there are multiple ways of staying in touch if you'd like. I have a monthly newsletter, and that's probably the best way to learn about what I'm up to, updates with the book, and classes that I'm teaching. I have a free masterclass at the end of the month called Love Creating Again. Let me see if I can remember the tagline here. Oh yeah, love creating again. Revive your creative spark, reclaim your artistic purpose, and birth your masterpiece. And so this is kind of talking about, or getting on the same subject as what you were saying about the way that sometimes practicing doesn't feel so good, and that removes the love of that brought you here to music in the first place. So what are some ways of getting back in touch with that in any part of your creative life? And that's what the workshop is about, and that's free. It's on the 28th of September. And I'm teaching a 12-week program as well called Soulforce Activation, how to harness your inner creative power, discover your artistic purpose, create more freely, and make lives, make art that touches lives, or touch lives with your art. There we go. It's a long title, but that's
So
basically,
good stuff.
yeah, it's my book in course form. So anyway, those are some upcoming opportunities to learn, to dive deeper into this material.
Cool.
All right. Great. Well, thanks so much for joining, Laura. It's great to see you
Yeah,
again.
thank you. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah, take care.